The Sustainability Now Telesummit is honored to share audacious ideas and innovative solutions from more than 30 experts from around the globe. Learn how we can work together to shape a world that works. Here's your host, Mira Rubin.
Welcome back to the Sustainability Now Telesummit, Shaping a World That Works. I am absolutely delighted to introduce Marina Qutab. Marina is a social entrepreneur, a citizen activist, and zero-waste vegan influencer from Worcester, Massachusetts. She's better known as the Eco Goddess on social media and champions the Green Girl lifestyle. Founder of the recently launched product Zero Waste Kit, Marina is on a mission to empower others with the mindsets, tools, and convenience they need to reduce their ecological footprints. An exemplification of all she wishes to create. She's a leading visionary in the eco-friendly lifestyle movement, especially in San Diego, California. Marina, welcome. It's great to have you here with us.
Thank you so much, Mira. It's such an honor, and I'm so excited to talk more about sustainability, one of my favorite things on earth, with you today.
Wonderful, wonderful. So, Marina, I actually learned about you when you were launching a Kickstarter for something called the Zero Waste Kit.
Yes.
And I would love to talk about your journey, what brought you to this Zero Waste Kit, and you have some wonderful lifestyle essentials and pathways to this whole zero waste idea to help us out. Mm-hmm. So yeah. Let's dive in.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to share. Well, I like to date my activist journey back to when I was 10 years old and I visited my father's home country of Pakistan for the first time. And that was where I was exposed to environmental degradation like I had never witnessed before in the community that I grew up in. I grew up in Worcester, Massachusetts. And so there were a few different culture shocks that really kind of, for me, shook me and stirred me. Something within me kind of woke up, and it made me, even though I was only 10, I was like, okay, I feel very like I have to do something about this. So the first one was actually just getting sick there. I had gotten sick probably from the change in weather and food. And so I blew my nose into a tissue one night, and in the tissue was just black soot. And I didn't make the connection. So I asked my mom what it was, and she said, oh, that's just from the air pollution. And I was absolutely shocked that she said that so nonchalantly. And it literally was the tissue in my hand that was the light bulb moment that our actions impact our environment. It's such a simple realization, but it's so powerful because our actions, whether negative or positive, will affect our environment and the people we're around. It's even like, I like to give the example of when you go into a Starbucks and you are to bring your reusable mug, someone will see that, and perhaps that will inspire them to do it as well. And so after that trip to Pakistan, I came home to the US and I started a Save the World journal, and I took it to my community where I banned styrofoam trays at my middle school. And I took it to my community. I joined a club called Think Globally, Act Locally. And now fast forward into college, I had actually enrolled myself in a global green challenge where I competed with over 4,000 students across the world. And I did this global green challenge. It was a 30-day challenge called Project Green Challenge, where I learned how to really truly shift my lifestyle from conventional to conscious. And here I thought before I joined it that I knew everything about eco-living. Well, far from it. That challenge was about like 5 hours a day. And mind you, I was still in college, so I had to keep up with work and things like that. But I stuck to this challenge, spending about 4 to 5 hours a day on these different tasks. Things like one task, for example, was a day where you learned all about non-GMO and the impact of GMOs on our planet, how the food is grown. Another challenge, for example, is beauty and how a lot of the beauty products are conventional and not made with great intention or standards. So at the end of this 30-day challenge, I actually placed as a finalist, the top 14. And then I was flown to San Francisco where I gave like a TEDx style speech. And there I placed second. And for me, like, that experience of enrolling in this Global Green Challenge and then placing and being just honestly connected with all these other like-minded individuals confirmed for me that this was my path and what I truly wanted to do. And so after college, I did actually work for a little bit in the health industry. I've always done marketing and communications, very much just love and passionate for people, and connecting with people. And after that, I had spent about 6 months outside of college in a job. And there was just a moment one night where I was like, I want to do my own thing. And I always had wanted to, but I finally made the leap of faith. And I spent a year really like building my presence online. And in that year of building the global community, I saw a lot of followers and people saying, how can I live this lifestyle more conveniently? And it was truly a wake-up moment for me, because I admitted that it wasn't very much a convenient lifestyle, and yet I had to advocate for it every single day. And so that inspired the creation of Zero Waste Kit. And that truly is the mission behind it, is to make the lifestyle more convenient to the masses, more inspiring, a tool really that they can take with them on the go, that they can use as a multi-purpose tool. So it is housed in a glass jar, and the reason I chose that is because as I was living zero waste and not sending anything to landfill, I have 2.5 years of my waste here. And as I was doing that, I realized that I brought around with me things that I could use for multiple occasions. So a glass jar, for example, that's wide mouth, can literally hold a few slices of pizza. It can hold a smoothie, it can hold a coffee, it can hold a bunch of different things. And so these are the types of concepts that I learned while truly living this way, and what I brought into the creation of the product itself. And so, yeah, we launched in November of 2018 on Kickstarter. And it's just been a wild ride, honestly, connecting with others. And now that I've sent kits to people who pledged for the campaign, seeing them doing the unboxing of the kit and like using it in the world is just so moving to me, because I never could have imagined that I would be creating a product that people would use, and it would help them reduce their waste. So it's been a really beautiful, beautiful experience, and something that I hope to grow even more, in the world beyond.
You're very inspiring, Marina, first of all, and you have created a movement. And you continue to spread the message of vitality and zero waste combined, rather than having it be something that we have to suffer through. You're creating it as an inspirational challenge, which is to your credit and greatly appreciated.
Thank you, Mira. That means a lot.
So I want to talk about this idea of zero waste, first off, because, or from the vantage point that I think people are not even aware of their waste.
Right.
I think that there's a level of lack of consciousness around the waste that we directly produce even, let alone the waste that's peripheral to the production of the products that we consume.
Wow.
So yeah. I would like you've got to pull that little jar up again and explain how in the world is that possible, and how can we become more conscious and more accountable and move in that direction, even if we don't end up with a little jar. I mean, yeah. I think so many of us end up with that jar a day.
Right. I love that question. I think it's so important. Whenever anyone asks me about this, that's actually why I stopped kind of branding, if you will. I stopped branding myself with this jar, because I think it intimidates people. It makes people think like I will never get there, and that's not at all the feeling. I want them to feel, I more so did this as like for me, like, wow, I could do that. But the way that I got there was actually living low waste or zero waste, people call it, for many years, like a full year before I actually started tracking it. And I started with truly just assessing where I created waste. And my journey has led me to what I call the two-step method. This is what I share with my community and my followers when they ask where the heck to start. And so I based it off of my journey, and this is called the two-step method. So the first is to really look at your lifestyle and where you're creating waste. Don't compare yourself to others. That will just lead you down a dark path. So look at yourself and look in your pantry, your fridge, your car, your room, your closet. Even make a list if you're someone who likes to write things down, and write down the top 3 places in your life that you create the most waste. Now, for me, it was food. So buying things like packaged tofu, chips, anything you can imagine that comes in non-recyclable, single-use plastic. That was the main way, was food. The second way was actually beauty products. And so I love beauty products, and I support vegan, cruelty-free brands, but I like to buy them. And so that was one main thing, was mascaras, lipsticks. I also put in that lump lotions and things like shampoos. So everything packaged. And mind you, some of those things aren't single use, some of them you can reuse, but nonetheless, that was a second way that I created the most waste. And then the third was actually on the go single-use plastic. So at the time when I first started my journey, even though I had the mindset and the goal to be an eco-activist, I would forget things like my reusable utensils or my reusable mug, and that was another big way that I was creating waste. So from looking at your lifestyle honestly, you can find the ways that you're creating waste. And step 2 of the two-step method is to make the move and to start actually transitioning. And so I recommend starting with one of those ways that you're creating the most waste, perhaps the one that's easiest to change, and start slowly picking away at it. So if you were to, example, start with those single-use plastics, like forgetting your to-go mug and things like that, buy a zero waste kit or create your own, something that can help you every single day, that you can just have in your car or your bag: a reusable set of utensils, a straw, a mug, a water bottle, a napkin, produce bags. Have some tool like that you can take with you, and now bam, you're not making waste in that area of your life. And
Marina, can I
yeah,
just ask you a question? Just to
sure.
interrupt you. So I had a really interesting experience. I went to Starbucks and
Yeah,
I had my own mug. And I said, I would like you to put my coffee in this mug, please. And they would not.
that's so interesting.
They would not, and they would not give me the cup without a plastic lid. So they had a paper cup, and I said, please don't give me the lid. I don't want the lid. And they said no. And they had to give me the cup with the plastic lid, and said that that was policy. And I presume it had to do with some kind of insurance coverage or something. But
Yeah.
I'm wondering, and I do want to get back around to the more of step 2, but how do you counter that kind of encounter?
I love that question. These are challenging questions. They make you think in terms of how to move forward when we live in a system that doesn't necessarily support these more eco-friendly ways of living. So Starbucks is a large institution that has a lot of things going on. Even their dairy, for example, in terms of like the plant-based living, animal cruelty-free perspective, their dairy is even sourced from factory farms. And so there's a lot of things that I would say they could improve on as a business. If you're in a situation like that and you can't live in alignment with your values, don't make yourself feel terrible for having to get your coffee in the way that they or require. But take action from that point forward. I think we get a little bit intimidated by big companies like Starbucks because they are big. But if it were me, I would get the coffee in there, or maybe I would just say, you know what, actually, I don't really want to give you my business then, but who can I write to? Because I would like to follow up with someone on this, and just talk to them compassionately, say, hey, I had this experience. If you haven't noticed, we have a big waste problem. And I don't believe this type of way of operating business supports the planet. So I'd love to know if there's anything that you guys are doing to improve, or if there's any way that maybe you can change your ways of doing business so that people that have their own mug can use it. That would be my main recommendation. And then, but that's an important step, is to actually do the follow-up and to reach out, and to maybe even create a petition. I'm a big believer in movements and creating movements and really pushing forward the world that you wish to see, rather than just telling your friends and complaining about it. It's like, okay, but go and do something too. And then the second tip, or maybe it's the third actually, is to go and support more local shops and more places that do allow you to do that. When we vote with our dollar, we've heard it before, and supporting institutions like that don't support the eco-friendly lifestyle, unfortunately, you're just continuing to feed you're supporting that type of business. And so I would say, go to the places, find the places that support you in living the way that you feel is in alignment with you and the planet. But don't forget to take that moment to be an activist, to really drive home the idea that this is the world that we should be living in. It's in alignment with the planet, so please do something about it. That's what I would do.
Thank you. And now to circle back around to the rest of step 2.
Yeah. And so really assessing those first parts of that first step of really looking where you are creating waste. Step 2 of actually making the move is where I have the most fun. I've made more DIY things than I could even name, in terms of cleaners and makeup. Now I do make my own makeup, making my own recipes, making even almond milk and cashew milk and all these other things. I do encourage people to get creative and to have fun on this experience, especially when you are changing your way of sourcing and consuming food, because I think that's like a universal way right now that we are all creating waste. Unfortunately, it isn't mainstream yet to package products in compostable packaging or sustainable packaging. And considering our recycling system and how there is a lack of cohesion and communication between municipalities, local communities, and really the government, it varies from state to state depending on what you can recycle. And so that's why I actually always encourage people to recycle as a last resort. But in terms of actually like approaching food in a more eco-friendly way, that is something that I think everyone struggles with. But the main ways that you can actually start really changing that is to, one, start buying things that are in reusable containers, things that you could actually reuse in the home. So things like canned goods, cans will always be recyclable, but you can also use them to like have a planter, a pot for your plant. Things that are in glass, always a great option. You can always reuse those. Obviously bulk, we've heard it before. People say like bulk the heck up. Yeah, bulk up as much as you can. You will save money. I've saved a lot of money on this journey, which is something that is attractive to people who aren't necessarily in it perhaps all the way for the environment, but are looking to save a dime. Definitely shopping in bulk will save you a lot of money, and you can stock up on anything you can imagine, including flour or sugar or beans or whatever it is that you want, trail mix. Yeah, so that is my 2-step method. I go a little bit more into it in my ebook. I launched an ebook a few years ago called Zero Waste Vegan Travel, and I teach people how to, travel consciously. But that is the gist of it. And something, if anyone's watching this and wants to just start somewhere, I would say go today and just start with locating where you create your waste, because it's hard to get from point A to point C without point B. And point B is making the move. Point A is realizing, okay, this is where I'm creating waste. And then point C is some version of this, even if it's, they say the average American creates 4.5 pounds of waste a day. If you were to even half that, that is creating a significant difference for our planet.
So that's actually a great challenge for, I will challenge people to collect your waste. Collect your waste for a week.
Exactly.
And in a place that you can see it.
And
be it's actually something that I've been doing, and it's appalling to me. I have a cat, and I have cat food, and I have, there are, I haven't found a market where I don't have food that is already pre-wrapped. So I think that there are challenges, but even when being conscious, it's appalling, truly appalling to see the volume of waste. And what I've noticed is, since I've become more aware of that, my habits have changed.
Exactly. And that's the truth, is that you can't unsee what you see. And that's what I think the beauty is of this lifestyle. And something that I didn't mention, which I would love to, is that as you embark on this journey, you will likely find yourself unintentionally becoming a minimalist, because this lifestyle waste truly does define us, because it is stuff, and it's the things that we accumulate. Every single people who live in any type of place, they have to take out the trash. And so you can think about it, every single week or however often you take out the trash, you will never take out that bin the same when you start to think about how it impacts the planet, how it impacts us, our health and marine life, the whole picture. And so that's what I think is beautiful about this journey, is that as you embark on it, you start to realize that less is more, and you can make more with what you have. You can start DIYing, start reusing, reducing, and this is all part of minimalism. It's all a part of having less, and with that actually feeling more happy. You have less to track, you have less stuff, and you can allocate your time then with doing quality activities that you like, such as like hanging out with your friends, or cooking with your friends, or going bulk shopping with your friends, things like that. And so I will just say, minimalism is probably something that you will experience as you embark on this journey.
I think that it could be isolating. I was going to ask you, do you go to restaurants?
That's a really great question. I think it was more isolating at the very beginning of my journey, because as the zero waste movement has grown, it's almost become, I hate to use the word, but trendy. And so people now think it's cool. But when I first started, this was in college, I was dating someone. I lived in a household. No one ate vegan. No one cared about zero waste. And yet I just started, so I was probably the most passionate and the most vocal about it. And I didn't want to go out to places to eat. I wanted to kind of stay in and just do my own thing. But as time moved on, I realized as an activist that I couldn't change anyone, and that all I could do was my best, and all I could do was work on me, and hope that perhaps my actions would inspire others. And so I think that realization is what helped me kind of acclimate into society again, or, move back into society again. And now it's something that I'm proud of. And, it's like, and people laugh about it too. They're like, oh, she's the trash girl. Like she doesn't create any waste. And that is something that I like now I take pride in, and I'm happy with who I am. And I think when you come from that place, rather than more of like the militant vegan or the militant zero waster, people like you, you're friendly. So they're like, well, I don't feel judged right now. I don't feel like you're trying to change me. And what you're doing is kind of cool. So sure, like teach me about it, So when you come from that place, it's definitely different. That being said, you will find on your journey as you go out to places and social settings, what places are places to kind of steer away from that are not zero waste friendly or vegan friendly at all, and places that are. And so take note of it. you will live and you will learn, and support the places that support the lifestyle that you wish to live. And again, going back to that Starbucks example, for places that you really enjoy and that your friends enjoy, but don't necessarily support you in living the lifestyle that you wish to live, write to them. Start a conversation with the manager. Ask if the manager is there, and just be completely friendly and completely frank, about the waste crisis and about how we are running out of time, and the time to take action is now.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. How about if you show us the zero waste kit? These are the things that you have put together as essentials.
Yeah, so this is the zero waste kit, and it really is your basic tool for taking on the world while creating less waste. It's something that I actually, although lived many years of the low waste lifestyle before creating it, it was around 2.5, 3 years before actually creating this. I did study my lifestyle for 4 months, and I really studied what I needed every single day. I would intentionally forget my essentials so that I could write down, okay, I definitely need that. And so that is what this kit is actually made of. It's made of only 6 essentials that I realized I needed every single day to reduce more than 70% of my waste.
Wow.
And so can you just imagine if someone were to bring a kit like this around or make their own? I'm a deep green environmentalist in the sense that if you can't afford this, or you want to make your own and you already have these essentials, go and make your own kit, please. You don't have to buy something. But this is, for me, I find I'm, again, my experience with coming from branding and marketing and communications, this is how movements start, is seeing a brand that you recognize, seeing a logo or a saying, or even like a bumper sticker, and you're like, I'm a part of that movement. I want to be a part of that movement. So that's kind of my motto, like around being like a kit user. So inside the kit is your zero waste straw. It's people with disabilities friendly. It's something that I think we don't talk about enough, unfortunately, as all of these places are going straw free. Straws are quite convenient and essential to people with certain disabilities that perhaps can't use their arms. And so this is especially designed with a rounded thing. It's soft to the mouth, and something that I think is super important for us to keep in mind of. There's also the straw cleaner. Something that I researched for months and months on end was to find a cleaner that had compostable bristles, unlike the classic plastic bristles. This is actually made from hemp sisal. And then we have the knife. So the knife covers are coming in just a few days. This is the informal knife cover. But this is our knife. It's handmade bamboo handle, and the blade is a ceramic. It's quite sharp. It can cut through anything from pineapple to meats to fruits and to things like that. There's also the reusable spork and utensils. So 2 in 1, I always lost either my spoon or fork with like reusable sets of utensils. And so I thought, again, less is more. Let's just put it all in one. We are looking into actually creating a metal version that folds. And so you can kind of unfold it. And that is something that we're looking in 2019, is to make a version like 2.0 for the kit. There's also the napkin. So the zero waste kit napkin is made from upcycled textile waste from the fashion industry, and we have a local seamstress that puts them together. And as you can see, there are 2 strings here. So the fabric is different colored. That, again, we don't know what fabric we're going to get, which is one thing that I think is kind of fun about the kit. And it comes with a pouch as well. So that's intended to be used when your actual jar is in use. You can have a place to actually store all of your kit essentials. And then what you do when all the things are inside is you fold it like that. And then you take the 2 strings and you tie it, and then we call this a zero waste burrito. And then the last components are actually the produce bags. Produce bags is the one component I would say that was the hardest for me to find personally when I was going zero waste. Everyone says go bulk shopping. Well, what is provided at most bulk options?
Plastic bags. Right.
And it's absolutely absurd. These are your go-to tools. You can also use them, of course, to store your vegetables. But our produce bags have the tear weight on it. The tear weight is the weight of any bag or container without it being filled. You want to give that to the cashier when you're checking out to subtract that. It's just a few ounces, but it does add up. And so it just kind of like a place to start. We put 2 in the kit, and on our website, we also have like full packs of 10 or 20 if you're going to be using them for grocery shopping. The last component, of course, is the jar.
What are those bags made of?
These are made from organic cotton, and we are looking right now. So we do have a supplier that's located in New York, but we actually want to have our own farm. And so my dad is from Pakistan. I thought there was no better way to go full circle than support a family farm in Pakistan that are organic cotton growers. And so that is kind of a sneak peek of what we are working on right now. Sorry about that. That is a sneak peek of what we're working on right now, is to actually make our own bags and to support a family farm in Pakistan. So yeah, that's for that. And then this is the jar. And as I mentioned, use your jar for anything. Version 2.0 will have a safety feature on the bottom of it, so the glass doesn't break, and it will be just another cork, something that you can stick on. So that way, if you drop your jar that way, there's no way that it will break. But the outside sleeve is cork, and this is to just protect your hands if you put anything hot in your jar. And then, of course, the bamboo lid. So this was an absolute dream, was to make a lid that didn't rust, that could compost at the end of its life. That is something that I really focus on in the kit, is that none of these components that you see here have plastic. All of them can actually be reused forever or composted at the end of their life. And I do believe, as companies, we have to focus on that. We have to focus on the circular economy structure in our business, is to not make more waste at the end, but to just have a product that actually is full circle sustainable. And this is organic bamboo. It's leak proof because of the silicone gasket inside of it, and it supports an artisan in Portland, Oregon.
Wow, that's beautiful. Thank you for putting that together. And as you said, this is something that anybody could put together.
Exactly.
With the tools, so that you carry around and you have these things accessible. And just another practice that would make a huge difference is when you're ordering a beverage at a restaurant, say, please, when you're ordering, no straw.
Exactly.
Something like that, as
You're
simple. And
absolutely right.
honestly, just reconditioning yourself to remember that, that's a whole new mindset.
You're absolutely right. And
Yeah.
I think it's important to have patience with yourself too, because another thing that we have to understand is that we grew up literally with an addiction to plastic. And as it's become more apparent in the news, specifically, there was one catalyst in the movement, which was the video of the turtle. Everyone knows that video with the straw stuck in its nose. And that's where I feel the world actually started to just wake up to straws. And there were bag bans being set in place before, but these little like moments in history are what change us and define us. And we're still waking up. We're still coming out of those old habits that we are so accustomed to. And maybe we even have like an emotional attachment to, like, oh, but my grandma always used to use, like, this is actually a true story. My grandma, ever since I can remember, always ordered 2 straws everywhere we went. Whenever she got a drink, she orders 2 straws. And I didn't think anything of it when I was a kid. But now, of course, that I see it, I'm like, oh my God, And so instead of saying like, Grandma, how could you do that? I'm just like, hey, look, I made a straw. Do you want to use this one instead? And so we have emotional attachments. We are sentient beings. And so we have to have patience with ourselves as we learn and grow in this journey.
So, Marina, you have some lifestyle essentials to share with us, even beyond the zero waste kit. So how about if you share some of that?
Sure thing. And so speaking of DIY, this is just one lifestyle essential, which is my on-the-go deodorant. I've made it myself, and I have a YouTube video on how to make it, but it's super simple. The base is coconut oil. There's also some flour in there. Forgetting what the specific flour is. Arrowroot powder, actually. And then there's also an essential oil in there. So it's quite easy, but this is it's an example of a DIY project that I made that I now no longer have to buy something packaged that actually most like toothpaste or deodorant containers can't be recycled because they're shaped in a very odd way. And so this will go to landfill. Another example is just a bamboo toothbrush. So Brush with Bamboo is one of my favorite toothbrushes that is bamboo, and their bristles are, I think, over 70% made from plants. The rest is still, unfortunately, petroleum-based, but they are looking to go completely plant-based, so the whole thing can be composted at the end of its life. But that's really cool, and it's a super easy switch. I believe it's something crazy like 850 million, gosh, I hope it's not billion, but it's in that range of toothbrushes thrown out every single year globally that are plastic. And so imagine one simple switch, that's one less toothbrush being sent to the landfill. There is also these great things which are called soap berries, and this is a great alternative to laundry detergent. It comes in a reusable organic cotton bag. You can also send this back to the company if you want to, so that they can reuse it, and if you don't have any use for it, might as well. And inside, they're just these little tiny soap berries. You can use about 4 to 5 in the laundry, and you reuse them over and over again, and they clean your clothes. And so it's actually a plant, which is really cool. So that's an example. And then this is just an example of something that I bought in bulk, which is shea butter. And I use shea butter in a lot of different recipes of mine. I use it for my skin. And it's something that I bought in bulk from a place locally that we have here called Earthwell Refill. Has a lot of lotions in bulk, even foods, some types of foods. There's organic products there that you can buy. So that's like another essential place that I shop. And let's see, this is something that I'm super proud of, which is my DIY toothpaste. The base is actually bentonite clay. I've experimented with many different recipes for toothpaste, and none of them really supported healthy teeth for me. They either like just hurt my gums. This, however, is gentle on the gums. Bentonite clay is something that we've used for a very long time by our ancient ancestors, even the Mayans, for taking impurities out of the mouth, and even the skin and the body. So that's on my YouTube channel, as well as how to make your own toothpaste. But yeah, those are just some lifestyle examples and essentials, DIY projects that have helped me in not having to buy things packaged, save money, and then share the wisdom online as well.
You had said something that I thought was really poignant, and it was talking about how you don't really encourage recycling.
Yes.
And I think the truth is that recycling is pretty much a myth.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah. So maybe you want to talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. So I think it's really unfortunate that there is a lack of communication and cohesion, as is between municipalities and local governments and local communities. Every single state has a different recycling policy, which makes it all the more troublesome to know what is recyclable and what isn't. Another fact of the matter is that we have exported most of our recyclable goods for a long time, for many years, China being one of them. I have to confirm on the statistic, I recently cited it in one of my YouTube videos, but something like 1/3 of our recyclable waste. It's a very high number, and they no longer want it because we haven't been taught in school systems how to recycle. Therefore, we are putting anything and everything in the recycling bin, hoping, and we've all done it, I've done it, hoping that it's recyclable.
I call it wishful recycling.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like, and you don't look, you're just like, well, in the bin, who knows where it went, and so they no longer want our recyclable waste. It's contaminated. We don't clean out our containers. I think there needs to be communication, a better communication overall. I think one of the best ways to do that is literally in school systems, is on bins, is to have literally public announcements of how to recycle, to teach people how to recycle better. And this is something that Bea Johnson recently as well. Bea Johnson is coined the founder of the zero waste movement. And she says people always come to her when they're living zero waste or they make the transition. They're like, Bea, I'm creating more recyclable waste than I ever have. You'd be so proud. And she's like, no, this is not what you should be doing. And so another thing to keep in mind, aside from it just being troublesome in general to recycle, one note quickly is that because China is no longer taking our recyclable waste, a lot of recycling centers are actually sending the recyclables to landfill because there is nowhere to put it. So if you want to know what your community is doing with the recyclable waste, call them up. In San Diego, I did call them up and they are not sending it to landfill, which is great, but it's something just good to know and to inquire in your community. But where was I going after that thought? Oh, it was that. Shoot, yeah,
That's
mind.
okay. Well, while you're thinking of that, some municipalities are burning as well.
Yes,
Burning
that is a
recycling.
huge issue
Yeah.
that you even see in third world countries. Jordan isn't by any means a third world country, but when I visited the Middle East, what's crazy, Mira, is that I smelled something that was so nostalgic for me. And it actually, when I was able to locate the memory, it was Pakistan. When I was 10, I smelt this very specific smell, only to find that it was the smell of burning trash.
Wow.
And it was that moment in Jordan, like 12 years later, more than 12 years later, I realized that we've been burning trash for more than 12 years and probably longer than that. And it's one of the greatest harms to the environment because when plastic is burned, it releases toxins that are very harmful for our ozone layer, for our health. It has been linked to some cancers, asthma, and that is definitely one way that people are getting rid of trash in those kinds of communities and countries because there simply is no other place to put the trash. There's no cohesion or system in place, which is absolutely devastating. Yeah, so needless to say, recycling is troublesome as is. For people, try to rely on it as little as possible. Definitely have patience with yourself. Like for me personally, I do create some recyclable waste. I aim to fill a small bucket a month and that's it. And that's a good challenge that you can do for yourself as you're trying to wean off of using recycling, is to create a challenge, much like the jar one for tracking your week's worth of waste or your month's worth, is same with recycling, to see how you can kind of reduce that over time and how you can start sourcing things a little bit differently.
What do you do with things like batteries?
Great question. So we have a drop-off in our library, fortunately, to recycle batteries, and I recommend everyone look into this as to where you could send your recyclables, like electronics and like batteries. Most places in the world have a place to have a drop-off, and so for me, it's my local library that's just a mile away. That being said, if you can't find a place that's local in your community, you'll likely have to ship these types of things. And so just to keep that in mind as well, as if you don't have a resource to do it, save them for months and months on end, even collect your friends and then send it off to where it can be properly recycled, and try to get some local drop off in your community. So again, using that activist next step of like, all right, there's no solution here. I will take the appropriate step to make a solution, but there also should be one locally. So I'll try to do what I can to get that implemented.
So just for folks that aren't aware, there's a company called TerraCycle also.
Yes.
And TerraCycle, they're known for recycling unrecyclables. And
I love them, yeah.
Yeah, so the way that TerraCycle works is that you can purchase a box and it covers the shipping, and you fill the box with the proper materials and then ship it back to TerraCycle. Cool. So that's one way to address things that are otherwise non-recyclable. Do you have a suggestion for any other kinds of resources for folks?
That's a great, I do, and it's kind of random, but shaving actually. So if you shave, you know, the zero waste swap is a safety razor. I have a whole video on this. It's the most hilarious thing. It's my most viewed video on channel. We have 500,000 views on this one video of me shaving my armpits. I guess it's a popular topic, but needless to say, you will have safety blades that you are going to have to, some people think, throw away. No, you don't have to. So steel is actually compostable. You could even put it in the ground and it will rust over time and literally just degrade. So that's something cool that a lot of people don't know. Another thing is that you can send it, I think it's called Albatross Shave Shop. It's something like that. I have to confirm the location, but they actually do recycle old blades. All you have to do is send them in an envelope to their location, pay for a stamp, and then you can send however many you want. But you can't recycle them typically in just regular curbside recycling. They will just filter right through the recycling. And so if you want it to go through recycling, it would have to go in like an old pill bottle, something that is contained. But that's just a tip for the people who shave out there.
Actually, you just brought up another good question for people that have prescriptions that they're filling.
Yes, exactly. That's a really good question. And, you know, I didn't really mention it in this conversation, but medications and vitamins and things like that, you know, your health should come first. It should always come first. You should take care of you. We don't live in a perfect world. It's something we just know and we have to accept. And so take care of you first and figure out if there are alternatives for creating less waste, definitely explore them. But for me personally, I do create waste, and that's one of the things that I used to track in this jar that I no longer do, because it's something that I simply will not sacrifice. Vitamins as a vegan, B12 is really important for us to take. So take care of you, and know that as time progresses, I do believe there will be alternatives to plastic that are compostable, like through algae or corn or hemp. But take care of you. That's a really important, yeah.
So in conclusion, Marina, do you have any other recommendations that you want to wrap up with?
You know, I do. And that is the buddy system, and to have someone who you love or who loves you that you want to include on your journey. I think we oftentimes in pursuing these things think that we're alone, and sometimes we are, but I think also it's the reality that we create. And so if you are to take it in a different way, to approach it in a different way with the sense of community and the sense of unity and building a world together, that is what will keep you inspired and motivated. It is a lonely journey when you take it on yourself, and it's something that I learned the hard way. And I even lacked motivation in some parts of my journey, and I wanted to not even do it anymore. And it's because I closed people out because it was the world that I thought we lived in. But we're not alone. There are so many people out there that are passionate, or perhaps just waiting for that passion to arise within them. So know that you are never alone, and include people in your journey. Start a community, start a movement. You have the power to do so. So that's what I would love to share as an ending thought.
That's beautiful. You know, it just occurred to me too, that there are a couple things, simple changes that I made that have made a difference. So for one thing, I started using handkerchiefs.
I love it. Yes,
Yeah.
it's such a big one. It's amazing. It's so easy too.
Yeah. So start using handkerchiefs. And the other thing is that I started using like a dish rag that I can use instead of paper towels.
Exactly.
And I have to say that since I started doing that, I have used probably 5 sheets of paper towels rather than 5 rolls.
Wow. It's amazing. I
So
absolutely love that.
really simple things. And if you can't use a handkerchief, then instead of buying tissues, use toilet paper, because then you can just use what you need.
Exactly. I love that. I think it's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. And you got it there with saying that it's a simple switch. And it's something that makes such a big impact. But you're like, wow, that didn't even require too much of a sacrifice. In fact, I kind
Exactly.
of like my handkerchief, you know? Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. So there are
Beautiful.
simple things and it's all incremental, and
Yes.
it's important that we all do what we can. It's better to be imperfect than to
Yeah.
do nothing.
I agree. There is this one quote that has recently been going viral on social media. It's by the Zero Waste Chef. Would highly recommend people checking her out. She's really cute. I think she's a mom. She's one of the OG original gangster, as we call it, OG Zero Wasters. And she made this quote that she had no idea would be so well received, which is, we don't need 2 or 3 people doing zero waste perfectly. We need millions of people doing it imperfectly. And that's exactly the movement, I feel, in a nutshell, is that don't focus on perfection, focus on progress, focus on what you can do. Don't compare yourself, because it is way too easy to on social media. Focus on your journey, and then focus on your community, and then focus on the world. Start with little baby steps, you know.
Beautiful. That's a great way to wrap it up. Marina,
Thank you
thank
so
you
much,
so
Mira.
much. We so appreciate you and the
Thank you,
movement
Mira.
that you've created. And
Oh,
yeah, it's been great to have you.
thank you, Mira. So nice to connect with you.
Thank you for joining us. Keep the momentum going by checking out all the other experts. Every one of them has invaluable information that you can't afford to miss. Buy the Premium Summit package now. Join the global conversation in our Facebook group and take action in your home, community, or the world at large. Together, we will shape a world that works.